I often get told by customers when they get stuck on a job how frustrating it can be when they're at the job, they're trying to start their machine and it doesn't work. And they have no idea of what the issue is. Sometimes they're screaming at the last guy who used it because he broke the machine and didn't tell them. Other times they're just frustrated with the machine itself, when in reality 80% of the time, the issue is not the machine, but rather that there's no power in the outlet. And in order to help avoid that frustrations, one of the things that we have done is we've introduced a little power indicator light, which means that once you plug in the Rabbit-3, if that light comes on, it's telling you you've got power coming to the machine. So if the machine doesn't work, the problem is not power source, but rather the machine. But that's very rare. For the most part, if there's no light on the machine, you'll know that there's no power coming to it, and it saves a great deal of frustration and time, and all you do is find another outlet and keep moving. When swing machines or side-to-side machines or floor scrubbers are used by people who are not trained in how to use them or are inexperienced in using them, you will find often that the likelihood of damage to property, and more importantly damage to the individual or injury, is very common. And the implications of this are seen more when people who have never used this kind of machine or just knew these machines use them, and it can cause some significant disruptions. It's no wonder that people call these machines wall bangers. However, in order to ensure the safety of the people operating these machines, whoever they are, whether they're trained or not, most machines will come with some kind of a safety cutout. The Rabbit-3 has a safety switch, which when activated allows you to operate the machine. However, if you find that you're losing control of the machine or the machine gets out of your hand, that switch automatically switches off and brings the machine to a halt and saves us all from a lot of damage and potential injury. Having said that, while the safety switch is great for ensuring that damage is minimized or injury is minimized, at the end of the day, anybody operating a swing machine must always read and follow the safety instructions that come with the machine, number one. And number two, they must be trained in how to use a floor machine. Oftentimes, when one uses a swing machine, and swing machines typically come with fairly long electrical cables, there's a risk that those cables can get damaged. If those cables get damaged, the challenge is that you cannot use the machine anymore, which means you've potentially got downtime. And you have to take the machine in for repair, which can be costly because you have to transport it there. There's labor costs involved in repairing it and bringing it back, and it disrupts your whole workflow. So by introducing a twist lock, detachable power cord, what we've been able to do with the Rabbit-3 is take away some of that challenge by giving control to the operator or the manager of a particular job, whereby if in the unfortunate instance cable is damaged, that person can replace that cable simply by twisting off the old cable and twisting on a new cable. This saves a ton of downtime. It's easy to repair, and as long as you carry a spare with you, you can do this at any time. And as a consequence, this particular addition or feature of the Rabbit-3 means that you are saving yourself additional repair costs, you are saving yourself downtime, which is perhaps most important, and you have an easy method to fix a problem that is very common in the use of floor machines. Well, as you all know, in order to operate a floor machine effectively, one of the first things you do is to adjust the handle height such that you have it at a comfortable height and it itself is in balance. And people come in different shapes and sizes, and so the height you need to that has to be very particular to you. So adjusting the height is a critical element of a setup of a floor machine. However, what has happened over time, and as people use these machines day in, day out, we have often heard complaints and concerns about people having to bend down to adjust the height of the handle, only guessing how high they want it and have to do it a couple of times to get it just right, has meant that they have added strain to their back, and may be a cause of fatigue for some people. And as a result, it becomes a frustrating part of the setup. By locating the adjusting tri-nut or lever at the top of the handle, like we have in the Rabbit-3, what we have done is eliminated the need for two things. One is bending down to make the adjustment, and two, the guesswork in setting the right height, because you are able to set it while standing up in the location you want and tightening the tri-nut or the lever in location, which means your setting up is easy and comfortable. And this means less strain, less back pain, and quicker setup. It's funny, floor machines are often called motors on a stick. And I think that reference goes back to the fact that the motor is the most critical component of a swing machine or a side-to-side machine. But motors themselves come in a variety of shapes and sizes and types and power ratings, and it can get quite confusing. And the quality of a motor also varies considerably. But the two primary types of motors are AC motors and DC motors. And DC motors have a distinct advantage over AC motors in that they are easier to operate because they're smooth operators. They deliver consistent torque, and they're easy to maintain, and they last longer. So we have elected to use a DC motor in our Rabbit-3, even though the motor is more expensive. However, recognizing that the motor is the most critical component, we wanted to have the best possible motor in the Rabbit-3. And that is why we do a few things as well when it comes to selection of that motor. We have used the same supplier for the last few decades because the quality of their product has been proven over time, and we believe that making changes is disruptive, especially if you don't know or cannot be assured of the quality. So we picked a DC motor from the same supplier for the last, I'd guess, 30 years. The second thing is that every motor that comes to our shop gets opened up and inspected to ensure that A, it is sound, nothing's broken in it, and B, we re-epoxy all the windings to ensure that there's no loose parts. And third, and perhaps most importantly, and people don't necessarily recognize the value of this, but the third thing that we do is we balance each motor. So when you operate it, it operates smoothly. And I think that is one of the key reasons why the Rabbit-3 is recognized in the marketplace as one of the best machines that you will find to do floor cleaning work. Having elected to use a DC motor, one of the things that we recognize is DC motors operate with carbon brushes. And carbon brushes wear down over time. However, there's no easy way to tell when these carbon brushes need replacement. So unless you're opening up and servicing your motor regularly, you will not know. However, not replacing carbon brushes on time can cause some severe damage and can be quite expensive to repair. However, replacing carbon brushes on a timely basis is an inexpensive exercise. So you certainly want to be able to be in a position where you know when to service your motor. So in order to avoid major expenses as a result of not changing your carbon brushes on time, what we decided to do was introduce a small indicator light on the shroud of the motor that tells you when it's time to replace those brushes. And what that does is gives you an early warning that you need to go and get your machine serviced for a small amount of money, get the carbon brushes replaced, and avoid a whole bunch of expenses as a result of not replacing them on time. And so that little light has huge value. How often have you found yourself in a situation where you don't have enough space in your vehicle for a critical piece of equipment that you need for a job site? Or that you find yourself at a job site with a small car and you need to actually take a piece of equipment to another job site because of some emergency or some requirement. And we hear about this often enough. So one of the elements of the design of the Rabbit-3 was to introduce pull pins that hold the base and the handle together. But the use of pull pins was intentional because by simply removing the two pull pins at the base of the handle, we can easily detach the handle from the base, making transportation of the Rabbit-3 and really all of Centaur's floor machines an easy task. In fact, the Rabbit-3, once you take the pull pins out, can be fit into a trunk of a smart car very easily, which means that if you ever have an emergency situation, transporting your Rabbit will be a cinch. Or if you find yourself in a situation where you need to deploy your machines more flexibly, having the ability to put these machines in a small vehicle makes that task so much easier.